Hey Amarillo, I'm Skylar Gallup, and you're listening to Hey Amarillo, the interview podcast featuring some of the most interesting people and stories of Amarillo, Texas. We record every week at Amarillo College's Innovation Outpost. The IO supports education, workforce development, and industry growth by inspiring and facilitating innovation in the Texas Panhandle. Today's guest is Matt Lee. Matt is a lot of things. He's an entrepreneur. He's a motivational speaker, although he doesn't necessarily like that term. He's a father and a husband. He's a personal friend of mine. He does a lot of service-based work in our community. But above all of those kinds of titles, he's a person who pushes himself and those around him to be better versions of themselves through love and integrity and perseverance. All things Matt developed through his own story, the story of his family and cultures. Matt does a beautiful job describing his school of thought or foundational approach to his life and work. So I'll let him explain it for himself. Here's Matt. Matt Lee, welcome to the Hey Amarillo podcast.
Thank you. Yes, it's good to be here.
I'm glad to have you. So we have lots to talk about. Excited about this conversation. We'll start like I always start, and that's by asking you, how'd you get here? So what's your origin story with Amarillo?
Born and raised in Amarillo. So my mom was actually from the Hereford area.
Okay.
And my dad came over from Saigon, Vietnam when he was about 3 from fleeing the war. So through a whole journey with his family, eventually brought him to Amarillo. As really one of the options for work for his mom and the packing plants and all the things that we had. So they met as teenagers, and I have 4 sisters. We did lose one along the way, but just growing up here. I mean, my parents, they met young, struggled as teenagers and young adults, and they really did their best to try to do better and hand something off for the kids that they had. So I have a really diverse look and view and experience with Amarillo, with the community, different sides of town, all of it. And so all of that has kind of evolved me into just being a part of the community now, being somebody that is across a lot of different things. And so, yeah.
Matt, I knew that your dad was Vietnamese, but I did not know that he was first generation.
Yes.
How, so did his family come? He was 3, so his parents and him, I assume?
It's a really long, crazy story.
They normally are.
Yeah. So
that's what we're here for.
Yeah. So it's, so I grew up believing, about the Vietnamese culture, my dad, and then my dad had never met his dad though.
Okay.
And then fast forward and, this whole 21andMe ancestry.
23andMe, yeah.
23andMe.
Gotcha.
Okay, that's how familiar I am. But a lot of that stuff a few years back started to evolve. So it told even more of my dad's story, which he didn't even understand or know.
Wow.
And so, long story short, though, my dad, his birth mother had actually made a decision to give him to another Vietnamese woman who was a part of the American Red Cross, had actually a way of getting here and knew each other and basically sent my dad. So that lady, woman.
That's amazing.
Yes, it is crazy. That's who I knew as what we call Banoy. That's grandma in Vietnamese. That's Banoy my entire life. And to my dad, that's mom. So the DNA stuff, after it actually told a different story, it's just wild. The whole story is kind of wild. And there's a lot of other details. We've met siblings, or my dad has, through the whole thing. He never knew about. I've met cousins on the Asian side that I never knew about. And it's wild.
It's funny how the 23andMe DNA tracking stuff has done that for a lot of people. And made good connections, and I think some surprises cropped up.
It's wild just to see. I mean, your entire life, even for my dad, he lived understanding and knowing and believing this, and then this brought up and shared and unveiled a different story and different people a part of that story. So I don't know. In general, that's always a part of why I feel like we're so much more alike as human beings and people than we are different. And so finding crazy surprises like that just reminds you of it's this huge but so small and gentle world at the same time.
Yeah, our family definitions are such an family definitions and stories
Yes.
are such an interesting kind of part of existence. So I know that your family blends your Vietnamese and Hispanic cultures,
Yes.
which is kind of best put on display in your food truck, which I think is so cool.
Yes.
So tell me about kind of that blend of culture and the way that it existed in your household growing up.
Yeah. So, I mean, that really is a whole story in itself from my mom. She is the oldest of, what is it? I'm going to just throw out, I think 5, 6 siblings,
Okay.
brothers. She's the oldest. And
Yeah.
growing up, she was the one that great grandma taught recipes like the tamales and the rice and the bean, all the things.
It's perfect.
Yeah. Even how to do the tortillas. And then
Yeah.
my grandma, her mom, kind of entrusted her more as the oldest, to cook. And so she
Yeah.
just naturally was doing that from a young age. Fast forward. So I'm the youngest of all of my siblings, all my sisters. So for me growing up, I mean, there was a time when before I was introduced to the world that my parents lived with my Asian grandma, my Vietnamese grandma.
Yeah.
And a lot of that time, I think maybe for several months, my Vietnamese grandma taught my mom how to cook, the dishes that were true to the culture, the organic, real, traditional recipes. So from
That's so cool.
the soups to egg rolls. And so my mom took that on as well as, practicing and learning on her own. She's always had a gift and then built it into this skill of cooking really great food, but like for the masses. Like she could just I would bring the football team, a lot of players that I knew, friends, and we'd come hang out in high school at the house. And my mom would just whip up something effortlessly.
Dude, a Hispanic woman's kitchen is a magical place.
Yes.
I totally get it.
So mixing that, having that alone was already phenomenal growing up, but then also to have that fusion and that blend of Vietnamese, so pho and egg rolls and banh mi's and these other soup. I mean, it just goes on and on. So to me, that was normal growing up. But anytime, again, we had friends, my family, or my parents would bring friends over, and everybody would just like almost be in awe and stuffed at the end and just like, oh, man. And so my mom, fast forward, I mean, growing up, I knew she had these ideas of like having a restaurant one day. She talked about that with us and we always looked. But by the time I had, I had started my first business at 20, which was a gym. And then over the last 10 years, it's been a whole different process of that. One of those being the food truck, being one of those businesses. But the model became, it's not really a restaurant. Amarillo had just changed its laws as far as you didn't need a brick and mortar to have a food truck. So that became the model. And really for me, as I had taken on experience in business, learning, trying to figure it out, that became an approach of what if this could be my parents' retirement plan? Like this is what they work for themselves. My dad, the Asian side of him, was always like, the best thing you could do is work for yourself. One day, find a way to work. And that's something his mom told him, coming over. And so my grandma, I'll say that real quick, who I have a lot of respect for. Again, I call her Benoit. So she came over when she was 36 and didn't know the language. And then eventually, at one time she was working in the Pentagon because she stayed in DC and worked restaurants, so she would have 2 jobs most of the time that I remember growing up. At times, my dad told me she had 3 jobs, but then figured out how to allow her money to work for her. So, of course, she's retired now. She's still alive, but she has, she's like a multimillionaire and has still barely speaks English, but learned how to come make her money work, how to work hard, give back, and then how to kind of capitalize on opportunity, invest. It's it blows my mind. Right.
I'm starting to get a much clearer picture of what created you.
That's why I'm all over the place.
And you're such
everywhere.
a hustler. You're such a hustler.
Yeah.
And we'll get into that, but that's so cool. So does your Benoit live in town, or is she in DC, or where is she?
So I think it's been around almost 8 years now. She stayed in Virginia, DC for a long time, but now in the last, I would say almost 8, if not longer, she's in Dallas now.
Okay.
So we get to, that was part of bringing her closer so we could see her more often. So she has rental properties and houses in Dallas, which is so cool. And she rents them out to doctors. And she's like, so she's doing well. That's where she resides there in Dallas. And so, yeah, she's just, man, inspired me. And
Sounds like a pretty cool story.
it's crazy.
Yeah.
So I jumped to that because I just wanted to shout her out. But
Yeah.
all that influence, and then even, again, her cooking, and she's always tried to instill to even her grandkids, my sisters, myself, like, start a business, go work for learn something. She wanted my sisters, of course, to start a nail salon. And that was her thing. Like, you could work for yourself and do this. So that became something also with the food truck.
Yeah.
Like, she likes the idea of a restaurant, something where you're working for yourself. You're putting the culture, the food out there. So that evolved into a food truck with my parents. I kind of took more of the business side from logo, kitchen layout. What do we need? Market it. But really, the most important thing you need, especially in a food truck or restaurant, is what product, are people going to want to eat what you have and come back again? And I knew with my parents, I'm like, oh, they got that. They can handle that. So that became what, what fusion of what we could bring, especially in Amarillo. We have a really great, want and desire for Mexican food, good Mexican food, right? And then on the Asian side too, from Thai to Laos to Chinese to Vietnamese, we have a great variety of that. So we wanted to be the first, if not, one of the only to bring Mexican Vietnamese. So that's Saigon Señorita. I don't even know if I've mentioned the name. You
haven't. I was about to plug it for you.
Yeah, Saigon Señorita. It's a whole story right there of really my parents and bringing those worlds together. And so.
Well, and food, I'm a big foodie, but food has such a way of bringing people together and of sharing culture and, whether it's from you and your football player friends in your mom's kitchen or, having an opportunity to, which I think is so beautiful, kind of create a retirement for your parents based on this really cool fusion of culture that you guys live is so lovely.
It's a way to the heart. Food is always a way to people's heart.
Absolutely.
Any culture, any age,
Yeah.
So, yeah, I love it.
Cool. Okay, so you've got the food truck, which I can attest to is super good, and y'all should definitely stop by. It's Saigon Señorita, like you said. Are you still over by the old? I call it the Midnight Rodeo Church,
the loft,
which tells listeners when I went to college. Yeah.
No, so typically, since we went from that setting up at lunch, dinner, typically trying that out, we focus more on events now. So community events, this weekend we'll be partnered up. Normally food truck parks,
is that working well?
Yes.
Nice.
Absolutely. I think there's two that we plug into, and normally when we go, we know it's going to be a good turnout.
Cool.
And so there's all sorts of little, what they call rallies, different parking lots around town. So Tuesday nights we do that sometimes. Like we have one coming up. Friday nights over there at the Panhandle Memorial.
I've seen them there, yeah.
So stuff like that works great because, there's a variety. So for anybody that comes out, they can not only try us, but they can get a dessert, a drink, and try appetizers. So it's a win-win. So we stick to that. Events, catering, a lot of catering, weddings, birthday parties.
That's great.
So
I will say, I think those rallies are really cool. I've got little kids and they're so stinking picky.
Yeah.
So like, I don't want, and they never want the same thing.
Right.
If one wants noodles, the other one's like, I hate noodles.
Yep.
And you've known this my entire life,
Yep.
So those rallies are nice to be like, fine, you get noodles and you go get your burger and we can all be happy. Yes. And I'll go to Saigon Señorita.
Yes, exactly.
Cool.
Yeah, so that works well for us. That's what we've been doing. So
I love that.
Yeah.
So I know, Matt, that is one of many businesses that you are a part of. You've got a moving company, a monument company. I'm trying to think of the others before we get to Allergic to Average because I want to spend a good amount of time on that.
So I think DJing.
Yeah, that's right. DJ Matt Lee.
Yes.
We've just before we recorded this, Matt was like, I guess I need to think of a DJ name. So
we've come to that point.
DJ Matt Lee.
DJ Matt Lee in the mix. Yes.
Keep your ear out for him. So you do some DJing.
Yeah. So I think you got it all.
Okay.
So we talked about food truck and then the monument company, Emerald Legacy Monuments.
Matt, how old are you?
32.
32.
Yes. 32 feeling new. That's what I tell myself.
That's new. I like it.
32.
I like it. I think before we dive into Allergic to Average, And I think we've probably gleaned this a little bit already. I know you. We've done a lot of work through Elevate Amarillo for, gosh, like years now.
Yeah, it's been.
And I think if someone asked me to like first 3 words about you, like just hustler, on top of these businesses, you have 2 beautiful, 3?
2.
2 beautiful little girls that I love so much. Y'all, one of them goes to my kids' school too. So
Yes.
our families know each other. It sounds like you got a lot of this from your Benoit and your dad.
Mm-hmm.
Does that just live in you? Like, do you not ever just like, what do you think you would be like if you like worked in a 9 to 5 for someone? Just miserable? Is there a Matt Lee that could do that?
So I did that actually. I mean, in the nutshell, fast track version, I go to Caprock High School, graduate, trying to figure out what to do with my life. I struggle with academics, so college was like, but I have like a scholarship and I have an AmeriCorps, thing. And so I think, if I don't use that, that's kind of foolish. If I just let that, so I go, I struggle, and I kind of change, different degrees and what's the word? Not degrees, but
Majors?
Majors,
yeah.
See, that's how familiar and good I was. So I changed majors a couple times, but eventually it evolves into starting a fitness gym.
Yeah.
And a lot of this for me was hearing even professors at one point talk about, the best way to learn how to run a business is the fact that you will be running a business one day. It's when you're running it, you're in it, you're doing it, you're getting the experience, right?
Yeah.
So part for, I don't know, a whole semester going through classes, struggling with academics for me, right? So I started thinking like, why don't I just like start a business and start getting what I feel like would be the number one thing to learn how to run a business.
Just jump right to it.
This is again at 20.
That's so great.
I have no idea what I'm doing. And I partner up with a friend and we go into this, we get a spot at the Western Business Park and we open it up. And this evolves from just doing free workouts at Caprock High School, like 3 to maybe 6 months before we ever decide to open a gym. We were just hosting free workouts, seeing like, would people like this style? It was more CrossFit based.
Okay.
So it was just from there to then I started working a full-time job because I thought, man, I want to get into a house. I had been married already I got married at 19.
Yes.
So at 20, then.
To a lovely lady. I know her. She's wonderful.
She's amazing. She keeps me, oh my gosh, just completely together.
You seem to, I would think that you would require a bit of wrangling. Like, hey, bring it in, bring it in.
Yeah. Breathe, come back, rest. You need to eat, all the things. So yeah, she got a full-time task with not only our 2 girls, but with me still. So
that's right.
Evolving into that, like I said, I mean, I wanted to give her a better life. I wanted to get into a house out of our apartment, what we started in. And so I thought, man, I could continue to run this. And I had a guy who was like the hiring manager at what was called Emerald Truck Center at the time. So it's Emerald, or it's Premier Truck Group. I thought I could make more money. Cool. So I would like work the gym, shut that down. And after certain hours, then I'd go to work at the 8 to 5, get off at about 4 because I wouldn't take a lunch. And I was able to do that. I cleared that. Then I would go back to the gym. And for 5 to 6, 6 to 7, 7 to 8, 8 to 9, we would do a new class.
Jeez Louise.
Shut it down. And then so that was just like, but I didn't know what I didn't know. And I didn't know also like what that would actually get me. I was like, okay, but if I just keep working hard, I keep trying. I don't want to do this full time as far as forever.
Right.
I'm just going to do this for right now. And so that experience, meeting people, that led me to going to family support services and being a prevention specialist. Now, I had already launched Allergic to Average behind the scenes of all this. I had left the gym and was trying to figure out my next thing. And I became a product of Allergic to Average, like learning how to think different for myself, the things I believed, whether it be from the religious space growing up, from the side of town I was from, like the Asian side, the Mexican, like whatever. I started to learn how to think for myself instead of like just what to think or what you should think, right? So in trying to find ways and to liberate through business, through how I can add value, how I can change things in my family and my legacy and tell a story of my own one day, I started to learn how to hustle. And it wasn't out of like, I had a lot of models and guides of hustlers, but in a very unhealthy, unsafe, or illegal way. I mean, that was part of seeing, from the east side. I grew up on the east side of Amarillo. Yeah. And so there was always models of that. But for me, trying to get back to, I have that in me, that hustler to I'll do this. I mean, I had one mentor call it a solutionary. You need to continue to be, you're a solutionary, Matt. You're always looking for the solution, or you're always looking for things that's going to bring a solution through an idea and I was like,
that's really
that fits
appropriate. Yeah.
So I've always tried to come back to being a solutionary or find a way. Like, that's how I got plugged into DJing. I acquired and I loved loud sound. And then one guy had a son and he said, "Hey, will you do his birthday party?" I was like, "Sure.
I can play music."
And it just never stopped from there. I got another ask and then it became this. And then I remember the first wedding and I was like, oh. And so I've learned how to evolve, how to just step into excellence and figure out how to be DJ Matt Lee. Like, so how to be a food truck owner.
Okay, so we'll start to kind of circle towards Allergic to Average. So you're at Family Support Services.
Yes.
And what are you doing there?
So as a prevention specialist, I'm going into our local middle schools, high schools, and really helping with programs that are geared around things like art therapy, creative writing, going to like Midway Alternative, on Wednesdays, doing stuff with
which is an amazing campus. I love Midway.
Spent years there, met amazing
transformative.
People. Yes, it's so I got to play a part in things like that, family support groups, community groups that we would host, all sorts of things that helped me to just get my experience with working with people, young people specifically, meeting principals, meeting counselors, teachers, and then building my experience of just another level of serving too. Like there was different parts of, our community, different organizations. I mean, I remember the first time, sitting around like a big, what looks like an important table with people, in a meeting and me trying to act professional and, but figuring it out has got me here. In showing up with excellence, I always struggled to, I think we all do. You want to be perfect at whatever it is you're doing, even if you're new and you're, but if we can at least show up with excellence, which is I'm going to do the best. My commitment is to do the best with what I have. And if that's all it is, then cool, we take it. And so I've just done my best to just show up in excellence in any of these areas. And I guess have the courage to try again. And, I've made, all of my mistakes in Amarillo. I grew up here. I've lost friends. I've made friends. We've gained things. Just across the board. But to have the courage and I feel like this is such a great place in Amarillo. That's why I'm still here, is to have the grace to grow, to have that potential even to grow. And so,
man, and I think that's such a valid point and perspective to flag. I'm not from Amarillo, so,
Seminole?
Yeah, that's right. Seminole, small town. And so I didn't kind of make those, not that I didn't make those mistakes, I just made them somewhere else.
Right.
You know what I
That's
mean?
True.
I went to college here, so, but I think it's really interesting to think about the courage that it takes to stay in a place that you love, that knows all versions of yourself.
Oh, yes.
And this is a small enough town.
Mm-hmm. Small, big town.
That's exactly. I think everybody feels it, I think it's really interesting to name that as courage. Okay. So we're starting to see kind of a couple of the contributing factors that, because I know the brand and your work have resulted in, I think, probably what drives the motivation for you in Allergic to Average. So Allergic to Average is this brand that you built, and it's, I'll let you pick up here in a sec because I think you're more used to selling it than I am. But from my perspective, what I see of Allergic to Average, it is a gym, right? There's a fitness component.
There was.
There was. That's what it started out.
No, and so that's
okay. Well, then you pick it up.
So, the funny part is, so we launched in 2015, and it was more about getting a brand that promoted a way of thinking over a way of like lifestyle, over a way of living. You got skater brands, you got high-end brands, you got but they promote really a style or a way of living, a lifestyle.
Okay, I get you.
Allergic to Average, the idea of that was, what if we promoted a brand that promoted a way of thinking that determined, or should I say produced, a way of living. So it didn't really
That's
quite
really
matter.
cool. Did you think of that?
Yeah.
That's just really cool.
Yeah. So the name gets introduced. So I should backtrack. In 13, 14, this name of like Allergic to Average. And I had already stopped my first business because I really like lost myself, and that's a part of making a mess. In my first business, I let ego get to me. I let like the attention and the success that I was feeling at 20 years old.
I was going to say maybe early 20s had something to do with it.
Yeah. So by 22, I moved into my first house. And again, this was just part of my story, part of my lesson, part of making a mess and learning how to clean it up and having the courage to. And so I removed myself, walked away from that business, and didn't quite know what I was doing. So the next year and a half, I spent very alone, very broken, very shattered because of the mess that I had made from the first business, my first, like attempt out. So I had to try to learn to trust myself. Again, I felt like for me, my relationship with God, I felt like God doesn't even trust me. Like he's not going to give me leadership again. He's not going to give me influence over any, I just wasted it, and then, I just had a lot of friends. My wife at the time, we weren't in a great place at all. So it was just like, what do I do now? Like, where do you go from here? So I became a product of learning how to think different, how to get out of just being a version or a product of where you come from. What you know is what you live. I say that so often, right? So there was things I needed to upgrade and update in my belief system, in my thought process, in my own experience that was going to move me out of that. So
it's so hard to be 22.
Oh gosh, yes.
That's such a hard time. And I think what's really commendable is that, you could have just stayed, you could have never sought another leadership position. You could have never sought to have influence or to make a difference.
Absolutely.
Because at 22, I mean, those are like crossroads years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where you're either learning the beautiful lessons that you chose to learn, or you're not, know?
Right.
And I think it's just, gosh, don't we, hindsight.
I know. It's just like, and I know I always bring up this quote often when I talk about how Steve Jobs has this quote about how the dots don't make sense a lot of times looking forward. It's always when you stop at times, you look back and you see how they all connected and they all told a story or led you to the next thing which you needed, and it actually led you to that thing. So that is so much of my story. Leaving college for me, I sought my education and my experience through starting businesses,
experience,
the actual experience,
good and bad.
Yeah, very like to both extremes, but learning that spectrum, it's just continued to put me to what I see as like, it's taught me so much value to even be here with you talking about the story and where I've been with this. And none of this is over. It's continuing, right. It's still on the grind.
Those dots are still in front of us.
They're still going.
So this experience, your kind of lived experience, is kind of what fed into Allergic to Average.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that became then something that is like this Allergic to Average name. This could have been an energy drink. This could have been, we talked about supplements like pre-workout, Allergic to Average, which I still feel like we would eventually get into a lot of these things. But we launched as just a clothing brand because realizing, and this was 10 years ago, that, clothing is a way of expressing. Like what we put on is a way to express. And it's a part of our creativity and our creative nature of saying like, this is who I am, this is what I wear, this is what fits me or feels best.
You're putting out there. Yeah, for sure.
Right. So if we could have people that wore something, if I looked at somebody that wore this logo, and I always had this idea that like, if people were to see each other in public and not know each other, but also have almost an instant buy-in to, well, I see you're wearing Allergic to Average, that tells me, even if I don't know you, what kind of person you are. And maybe even what kind of person you think or you push to be, right? And
they kind of did that with Chive, right? You remember that?
Yeah.
That brand? Like, yes. I remember like Chive was like,
oh yeah.
Yeah. My husband at the time like had a Chive shirt that he wore sometimes, and we'd be out and like someone would buy him a beer. Yes. And be like, chive on, brother.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of similar. That like if we can create something that when I see you, we have this shared experience.
Right.
Is that kind of what?
Yes. And at a deeper level too, because when we go around, even through social media, we don't get to see the inner workings or the mind or the heart of a person. Even if we'd like to believe you're a good person, now you still don't fully know that if you see somebody wearing Allergic to Average. But if somebody's bought into not just being an average version of themselves, not settling in whatever that looks like, and our focus with Allergic to Average is the heart and the mind of a person, how to nurture that, how to cultivate that, how to heal that, how to restore that, whatever it is, that actually really determines and dictates the kind of experience you're going to give the world every day, everywhere you go, how you show up, right? Is the nurturing, the cultivating, and the growing of those two areas. And so that's what we wanted Allergic to Average to be, like something that is a reminder for a lot of people. You're not crazy, or this, like maybe you are, keep being crazy in that great way, or it's just an invitation. Like there's more available. You don't have to be a product of your environment. What you know doesn't have to be what you live if you change something different, right? And so that got me to, like, through mentorship growing up, like, again, because I left college and I went into entrepreneurship and business, I like leaned on a lot of mentors that would, I don't know. I love Amarillo because there's such a phenomenal community of people that, for whatever reason, many reasons, they believe in others. And that has birthed for me to continue at like 16, 17. I was mentoring other young men that were in middle school, and that just continued for me. I went to Randall Potter County Youth Advocate Program. That was one of my first jobs. And I was mentoring, and being an advocate for young men that were about to be sent off. Like, this was their last chance. Yeah. And so I found, I still talk to a lot of those young men today, or several, I should say. I wouldn't say a lot, but
sure.
That's all. Yeah. I feel like a part of what Allergic to Average was meant to be, or is still continuing to be with its mission, its vision, is really starting with self and really allowing, as you focus and almost become obsessed with growing you and knowing you, you are a benefit and a value as you can, anywhere you go and everywhere you go. Yeah. And everybody is valuable in this world and in our community, because every single one of us has a way of contributing something. Because Martin, we can all serve. I saw that more and more. And as I traveled, even at a young age, and I would always come back to Amarillo. I went on some mission trips, service trips to Poland, Germany, and at 15, let me just throw that in.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
But that gave me, coming back to Amarillo at that age, just a whole different perspective of like what we have here, and what is available, and the cost of living as you get older, you see.
Amen.
And the slow pacedness of, like,
yes,
our world's already busy. I know you stay busy.
Yeah.
So if you can actually live in a community where it at least feels like you can breathe when you're driving and on the highway, that's not always true, but it just makes a difference. And so I've always seen that with Amarillo. But even in a sense, I'll compare these two with Allergic to Average. I feel like at the end of the day, I'm an average guy with, from an average place, average community. Amarillo seems like an average town, but it's actually what's beneath what seems average, even in our community, that makes it the Allergic to Average, that makes it actually different. And for me, it was never about, I had parents that were super wealthy, or I had just had these brains that could take me to any college, or I'm just a phenomenal athlete, or anything. It was just more about taking what mattered most at the time and what you could show up with excellence and just build upon, and how much that will shock you every time. I think every single one of us as individuals, how much it would actually surprise and shock us as the success we find. The people that have done that and built things and continue to, they know it's worth it and what it takes. But for every single one of us, we sleep on this reality of, like, being patient is worth it. Building connection is worth it. Meaningful connections and relationships will take you further than what you think your reputation and actually being a good person, and these things we talk about, integrity and
they matter.
They actually matter.
And they make such a stinking difference.
Right. And I think in our world now, it's like the verifying check about a person is like, if you don't have a good reputation, or at least have done things that show the fruit of your heart, your motive of, this is where I'm coming from, this is what I want to do. People can see it and they can feel it and they can sense it. Or you're going to be on a documentary one day on Netflix getting exposed for all the crazy stuff you were trying to it wears us out. And I think our world is, and not just our world, our community even, like we have enough of that. We have enough of wanting to take and wanting to feel like we're separate and this belongs to our side or this belongs to our culture. But we need more people stepping up and awakening to the fact that, like, I mean, we're a lot more similar than we are different.
We're all in it together.
Right. We all need each other. We're all, trying to figure it out. We're all really trying to get to the next best thing. And then from there, but the best way is moving in oneness, together. It's an awareness of oneness. That's a whole talk for me. But
yeah, so I want to take us to the work that you do with our youth in schools and a bunch of the different ways that you do that, because you've enumerated sort of like the foundation of your message so beautifully that I am confident our listenership is like, this guy is peddling some pretty good stuff. Like I love the way that you talk about the way we show up every day, and just all of it has just resonated so strongly to me for the years that we've been knowing each other. And so talk about the work that you're doing in our schools, because it's some really beautiful stuff.
Yeah, so that's still building and developing as we speak. And right now, I won't say too much, but just the next approach is we're meeting, with Amarillo College and looking at...
you've got something else cooking. I'm shocked,
yes,
Matt.
Yeah. So this next month, we'll step into with AC president, and we're going to talk about some things. But the backstory and how it really kind of evolved into more and more what it is has been, how do we make this tangible? Like, think different, right thought, your belief systems, all these things. And so for me, one of the ways that made, I guess, the most sense, which didn't make sense at the time at all, was almost developing a curriculum, something that, you could lay out that helped people, or really at the time, elementary school level was where it really started. One of my first talks ever was for a hockey team of 12 kids. Aww. And they were all about 11, 12, somewhere around there.
Such an important age.
Yeah.
Too.
So like from that very first talk of like, well, how would I explain allergic to average and what should they understand? It led me to eventually taking it to a school. And, I remember in Hereford, I think that elementary school is closed now. This has been years ago, maybe 8 years ago. And I did a whole rally. And I brought in sound and I just played music and I gave, a speech about being different, for those kids and what that meant and how kindness sets you apart. And so it began to evolve into, again, a curriculum. And then I really felt like there needed to be more resource and tools available so that if I wanted to go into a school and talk to kids, and that was really a lot of my heart. I have a background in growing up in a youth group, and even at 17, I was the youth director, which was crazy. But that's always been a part of my call, And so writing that out, taking that into schools more became like, okay, well, keynote talks or an actual curriculum, talks of a curriculum. I would leave a meeting talking about a curriculum with somebody, a principal, and then I would have to go home and start putting that curriculum together. And that was the hustler in me, was like, if I could sell it, then I'm definitely going to be motivated to make it. And it wasn't, I'm going to take advantage or cheat them out. It was like, man, if they could actually see the vision of this,
of course,
then, that would help me get past my procrastination of writing all this out and doing it. So that continued to evolve up to like last year, taking this was a new program, the A16 Fit Mind. This was a program that we took to California. And for 2 months, worked with elementary school and middle school level on how to do what we call fundamental movements and how to get your mind working with your body, how to grow in awareness and repetition, and how that mental, repetition. And so it just became a whole nother program that I had never done, but we figured it out. And then, now that's led to, the colleges, working with college age students, because the message has grown into more and more depth. And as I've done more studying and just evolved it, it's grown into like college age is probably one of the best places for me to speak at and to collaborate with, because at college age, I mean, especially fresh out of high school, you are forced to figure it out, and life gets real like
in a hurry,
super quick. So having some mental guidance, I mean, as far as the inner world, the inner focus of your thought process, your belief systems. I mean, a lot of us were carrying, especially out of high school, a false identity of who we are, who we think we are,
Sure.
or who we're not.
Told we are.
That's
Yeah,
right.
absolutely.
So that's been a part of what I was mentioning on working into colleges and what had even brought me into. So I've had experience working with WT on several different, events, retreats. Same thing with Emerald College now. Spoke for Rutgers University at one point for an MBA program.
What?
Yeah, which was silly stuff. It seems like, but so that became a part of the message has always been more important, very much so important than our gear or what we put our logo on. It's always been more about selling and really inviting people into a different way of thinking. Because if we can get people out of a default way of thinking, that's where we all come from. An average way, a default way. This is how you grew up. This is what you were told. This is what you experienced. And so that default's not your fault, wherever you find yourself at default, a lot of times 18 or 17, leaving high school. But it is your responsibility, though, to get out of default and then learn how to design the life that's going to best serve you, design even the day, the future of. And so where do you start? Well, I believe and have been really convinced that you start with your thought process, your way of thinking, your belief systems. I tell a lot of people, you got to get rid of the BS, right? That has got you here, which is your belief systems, your limiting BS.
How interesting.
And so as you get rid of those things and you can upgrade them, again, this is part of my story. This is part of why,
we've seen. We've seen it in what you've said here.
Right. So I believe that's true for every single one of us, every single individual. And the sooner you can tap into that, or at least start to maybe believe in that and see it for yourself, I think it just changes the entire trajectory of not only an individual's life, but the individuals in that person's life, the community of that individual. And so that just grows in a magnificent way if we start there.
I think mental discipline is tricky. It's hard, right. Even for myself, I have read all the stinking books. I have read all of them.
Yeah.
And I think I still struggle with application of this stuff. You know what I mean? Whether we're talking about, time management, about, focusing on what's important, about, not negative self-speak,
right.
all the way to anxiety and trauma and just all the things that all of our neighbors are walking around with, right? And let's normalize. You can read all the books, but it is real hard to put it into practice.
Yes.
And I think that's a lot that you guys work on, is trying to find the success in that.
Yeah. And that's, there's not a one size fits everybody at all. When it comes to growing your mental musculature, the same way, it's very difficult to go to the gym or even sometimes make time to go for a walk, 30-minute walk, which is what we all should do every single day. Wouldn't it be great? It would, but we just don't do it because it's simple to do, simple not to do. Always simple to do, simple not to do. And I think the mental awareness, building that mental muscle, that musculature of over time, growing in awareness of, okay, why did you react that way? Right? What made you tick or upsetted you about what they said? Or sometimes you can watch an episode of something and then something in you gets kind of turned and you're like, I don't like that. But and I feel like that takes courage too, because some people don't pause enough or take enough time to know themselves. And so if you don't know yourself, you can't actually grow yourself.
Sure.
If you don't know an individual that you want a relationship with, if you don't know them and get to know them, you can never grow something with them, or you don't actually know the place you work for and what their mission is. So how can you actually help grow it? And all that starts on an individual solo level for us. As we get older, you get out of high school and more you start seeing, what is it about me? It's I feel like the whole mission is how are you going to crack the code on yourself? How do you learn best? What ignites you? And maybe at times too, what pisses you off? What frustrates you? What do you not stand for? What do you stand for? And so that comes through the doing and a lot of times just the being. I will be love where I don't see it in this community. I will be different where I didn't see that growing up. I will. And it doesn't mean you know how. It often 100 times out of 100, you don't know how. But that's what makes you allergic to averages. You actually have the courage to say, I decide to do this, right? I need to, I want to, and you go for it, whatever it looks like, right?
Even if you don't know how.
Even if you do it scared,
That's
right?
so valid.
And so I just feel like that's what makes the biggest difference, and the most sustainable things that we've found in our world and even in our community is people that they didn't know how, they didn't know exactly, they didn't have the blueprint or the knowing, or maybe even they didn't know the right people, or they didn't have the right education or credentials. But over and over again, we find that the heart and the mind of a person can create a lot more results than credentials do, than titles do, than positions do. Like,
yeah.
And so that's always been like the focus of Allergic to Average. And my story and what I've always tried to come back to for me is like, look, dude, it's even me speaking in colleges. I mean, I struggled with like, I don't have a degree in this and I'm not a doctor but it was like, yeah, but you can help find results where those things don't matter. Those things aren't finding results. This is where you can serve. And so as we do that, and again, for each one of us, it looks different. Like what is the next step? What is the more in your story, in your life, in this season? And how are you going for it? Or are you just settling and talking yourself out of like, I'm not worth it? Or who am I to think I could do that? And so every single one of us is going through that in different levels, different seasons, different areas of life. And so I just feel like as we synergize together in realizing that and awakening to that, I mean, I feel like we just become more powerful as a body, a culture, a collective of people, a community. And so, I'll stop talking.
Yeah, I want to talk with you about during your work in schools, and I'm going to say not quite college. So let's go elementary, middle school, high school.
Okay.
What we know is that our young children are experiencing a lot more challenges.
For sure.
There are more mental health struggles, both acute and run-of-the-mill, our anxiety levels and depression levels in our young people. And also, I want you to hone in on young men.
Yeah.
Because I think that we're at a time societally where we're recognizing that we've got a crisis in our young men. And so what has your experience been? How do you tailor your message, which is clearly very, very relevant and valid for that specific age and gender and time,
Right.
I'm just thinking, my kid, I've got 2 little boys and my 12-year-old's going to be a middle school white male, right? And we got to do right by them.
Yes.
We've got to raise them right for a million reasons.
Right.
So what's your take on that from your perspective, from your childhood, and how do you carry that out whenever you've got this group of kind of really important kiddos in front of you?
Yeah. Well, I should say that like foundational like pillars is what the entire message of A2A comes back to. So I call it the A2A core 4. So that's create, love, the grind, honor.
Okay.
And so really honing those things in for individuals, but especially young men, one of the best, if it's not the only, but meeting grounds for so many young men that I've worked with and mentored, some just through schools and just different stories. There's a lot of young men that have a completely, different upbringing background. Some didn't have parents, some didn't have dad around. And so it was challenging at one point to just like, how do you tailor to all that? But
sure,
something that I've always experienced, and this is the spirituality side of what I kind of tap in, and something that's bigger, but it's always brought me, and this is even some of the Asian side, that culture of the Vietnamese, and again, across that in the Asian culture is something that we started to see a lot less in our culture, which is honor. And again, this was 10 years ago when I started looking at create, love, the grind, honor. But I was like, man, there's this thing that is missing that is so powerful that goes above and sometimes beyond your own knowledge of what it is, but to pay it and to give it where it's needed, it's like a currency that always pays you back. It's something that always finds and pays you in honor. And like, so it's like this lost concept or principle within society. So I feel like one of the things is, for me specifically, again, I mean, this is for everybody, guys and girls, but like the culture of honor is something that I've always brought back to our young men is how do you honor you know, the story that has been before you. Maybe you just have mom at home, but how do you learn instead of, you know, casting mom as a victim or you're not doing this? And I get that, but how do you learn how to honor who she has been in the fact that what if you didn't have her? You know, there's other people, their stories, they didn't have mom. So over and over again, honor teaches us to go back to something that was done or something that was given before or beyond. Maybe, I mean, and this goes into like our first, you know, showing honor for the people who have died and given their lives in wars and tragedies. Like, as we show up and, you know, I know that our younger generation, and we've seen it through social media, like we know that there's always, and it's in adults too, but there's this like this sense of entitlement, you know, that we are owed or that we expect. And I think that's such a dangerous place for any person, even a young person, of course, but any of us to get into is, I expect, or almost like, you know, and it starts at a young age.